Welcome once again to our podcast. It is called Born This Weird. Today we're going to tackle our second episode, which is about the architecture of self-reliance, overcoming adversity, identity, and family dynamics. And with our guest, Izzy Mango. So, what happens when the safety nets of family dissolve just as you are discovering who you truly are? Welcome to the second episode of Born This Weird, where we sit down with Easy Mango to explore the intersection of the LGBTQ plus experience, family breakdown, and fierce development of self-reliance. When you grow up with a broken family, survival often dictates that you become your own anchor. But navigating a world that isn't always built for your identity forces an even deeper kind of psychological resilience. In this episode, Easy shares his raw human experience of overcoming childhood adversity, stepping into his authentic identity, and learning how to build security from the inside out. Tune in as we dissect the psychological blueprint of hyper independence and courage it takes to heal from relational trauma, and what it truly means to define family on your own terms. Right. So let me call in our very, very special guest, Izzy Mango. Hi, Izzy. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Jasper. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me today. It's such an honor to be part of your podcast.
That's great. I'm so excited to learn more about you, how you grew up, and all of the challenges you face in life, and how it writes your uh, upbringing, right? So, Izzy, you've spoken about coming from a broken family before. Growing up, at what point did you realize that you had to become your own emotional and physical anchor? And how did that shape your early worldview?
Yeah, so basically, there wasn't a single moment where it became obvious. It was more of a slow realization that stability wasn't something I could always expect from my environment or the people around me. I learned early that if I wanted emotional safety, I had to start building it within myself. And that influenced how I saw the world and the people around me, to say the least.
When did you realize that? At what age?
It really started at a very young age, at the age
When you were
of
born, child?
not really, but at the age of 8 or 10, where
Oh,
that's
very young.
where the dependence slowly sinked in to me, and I really started to act maturely at a very young age.
Just like you've been working since eight, child. So you really like grew up, you forced yourself to grow up
Yeah,
at a very young age.
true. Just like the normal kids, they play. I
Mm.
I still hang out with my childhood playmates. It's just that as the day ends and you now go back to your home, that is where everything shifted. When you go home, not having a family there, not having a mother or a father figure, it hits differently as a child. But all other aspects, as what a child does, I still do it. I do play and do other
Mm.
things.
I was curious because I learned to cook when I was 14. Is it the same for you when you were 8?
Yes, I was 8, around 10. I already know how to cook, and it was the conventional way, actually.
Mm.
Unlike now, where you have now an easy access when it comes to cooking. You just have to use a rice cooker, and then you can now cook. Unlike before, where you have to start it from scratch, just like a camping, where you have to light a fire out from wood sticks and all those kind of stuff.
That was very young for
Yeah.
being independent. But anyway, So psychology often talks about hyper independence as what you have experienced.
Yeah.
As a shield we build when our primary environment feels unstable. Looking back, did your self-reliance feel like a conscious choice, or was it purely an instinctual survival mechanism?
At that time, I didn't feel like it was a choice, rather more of an instinct. I did not woke up and decided to be strong or
Mhm.
independent, really. It was more like adapting to what was happening around me and to my life at that very moment, at that age. And as I mature and as I take every step of my journey up until now.
All right, so without consciousness, without like really knowing what's happening, your body instinct just chose to depend on yourself, on your own.
Yeah, so it was more of a conscious respond to what was the situation
Mm,
is or at hand. So it was more of that because I now I already have a concept at the back of my head that I don't have a mother and a father that I could always run back to whenever I
mm.
get into myself to any troubles or whatnot. So yeah.
That's really sad. How did navigating a fractured home environment affect your early stages of self-discovery, especially when it came to processing your identity as a member of the LGBTQ plus community?
Growing up in an unstable home made self-discovery more complicated, honestly. When your environment doesn't feel safe, even understanding yourself becomes something you do quietly and afraid to share too, almost in isolation. So the self discovery is always done behind closed doors. So for me, exploring my identity as part of the LGBTQIA plus community wasn't something I could fully express outwardly at first,
Mhm.
but it was something I had to process internally while also trying to manage everything else that is happening at home and in my very environment.
Oh, did you kept this like for a very long time?
It wasn't kept. I think the my
Mm,
guardians, my grandparents knew that there was something different in me, but back then being part of the LGBTQIA plus community is something that is quite taboo. Unlike now
mm.
that it is has become more normal
Vulnerable. Yeah.
because of some public figures that we see in TV or in any other platforms. But back then, it was something that you should not proudly flaunt to
Oh, yeah.
everyone, if that makes sense.
Of
Yeah.
course, I experienced that as well. And unlike you, haven't been able to like come out at the early age because it's a very dangerous
Yeah.
place to navigate for us
True.
in the LGBTQ community.
So it becomes you now have a two-edged sword pointed at you.
Yep.
The struggle of growing up without a perfect family and navigating one's self as a member of the LGBTQIA plus community. Yeah, it's hard when you have to keep most of the things that you would want to ask and
Mm,
at the same time navigate the process of understanding the things that is happening around you, so not having that moral support and comfort at home makes it even more difficult.
because we know it was hard for us in our generation.
Yes, it was really hard. I mean, back then it
Yeah.
wasn't something that is fully accepted or embraced. I think that's the simplest term I could say it. Unlike now that most of the people know that us is now part of the community little by little, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a concept called minority stress, which highlights the extra layer of psychological weight of LGBTQ plus individuals carrying just by moving through the world. For you, did coming out feel like it added to the weight you were already carrying from your family dynamics, or did it bring a sense of liberation?
That's a tough question, actually. Coming out didn't exist in a vacuum. It layered itself on top of everything else I was already carrying. There was a sense of relief in finally acknowledging my truth,
Mm.
but also an awareness that it came with an additional emotional weight. It wasn't just, liberation, but it was also the vulnerability. That's where I really began to understand what minority stress means in a lived sense. Yeah, true. Because it's hard to find back then someone that you could be comfortable with in sharing what you are going through, especially um, the self discovery as a member of the LGBTQ plus community, because it wasn't as fully accepted back then.
When your home doesn't feel like a safe place to land, where did you seek external validation or safety during your formative years?
That's a good question, really. Back then, when home didn't feel like a safe place, I looked for safety in the tiniest and the small things, like the friends that I have, the online spaces, the creative outlets, and sometimes the solitude. External
Mm.
validation mattered at times, but more than that, I think I was searching for places where I didn't have to constantly explain or defend who I was.
Yeah, I'm glad you found like friends to talk to about your self-discovery. Even friends
Plays,
are hard to find. Yeah.
yeah, which plays a big factor to us growing up.
All right. How did you manage the internal conflict of wanting connection and family support while simultaneously needing to protect your peace and your authentic self?
That was one of the hardest internal conflicts, wanting closeness and family while also knowing that closeness could sometimes come at the cost of your own peace. Um, I learned to be honestly selective with my vulnerability, if
Mm.
that makes sense. So I wanted connection deeply to someone, but I also had to protect myself from environments and people where I felt emotionally unsafe and, judge. It's hard
Mm.
because in our community, more often than not, we are getting judged in most ways. The way we speak, the way we carry ourselves, the way we present ourselves out there. So there's always a stigma. So it was really a conscious effort of ensuring that I am surrounded by the right people. And as you mature, you also have now a keen sense of understanding and that sense of scrutiny towards the people around you, who and who's not real, if that makes sense.
Like that. I mean, I feel like I have to hide the identity back
Mm.
then.
Yeah.
That's really a hard time. But anyway, true self-reliance is a superpower, but it can also make it incredibly difficult to let your guard down. How
Mhm.
has your past influenced your ability to trust others, form relationships, and accept support today?
That's true. My past, it definitely shaped how I trust people. Um, for a long time, trusting others felt risky,
Mm.
and receiving help felt unfamiliar almost. Almost and uncomfortable though. Even in relationships, I had to unlearn the idea I always had to handle everything alone, those moments. And it's still something I'm working on even until now. But I've learned that letting people in doesn't automatically mean losing control or safety. You just have to accept and go with the flow as to how the relationship would go and how it would flourish. Because the tendency is that, like in my case, I try to build a wall, a wall that only few people could get in. So it's not easy, but what I also learned as over the years is that you just also have to let people in, of course, the right people, and just live for the moment and take it a day at a time. And each day you get to discover certain things and realize something that will help you grow and also communicate to someone even more compassionate in a more compassionate way.
I love it because it really hits me home because I'm also the same. I'm also the one who doesn't trust people,
Yeah,
and
fine.
I'm really scared that I overthink that I'll be
We
disappointed.
always overthink,
Oh, yeah.
especially when you are at a young age, you've been through a lot, and it's normal that we really cage ourselves from certain pain that could easily derail us at any time.
What I like about what you said is letting people in doesn't automatically mean losing control or safety, because that's what I feel every time.
Yes,
And
I've been very cautious, but what one thing I learned, if I'll continue to have that certain level of control, I don't think I will also find I might lose the opportunity to find someone that I could be
mm,
with, or
yeah,
someone that you could be friends with or be a lover or whatnot. So I just simply let people in, but of course we choose the right people, right? It's not that everyone can just can come in. No.
so I'm glad you already evolved into that way of thinking because I'm still at the stage before that. I'm still not trusting people at this point. So I'm so glad that you're already like letting people in a little bit.
Yeah, a little by little.
Nice, it's good for you. In psychology, we see that people who survive tough childhoods often excel at building a chosen family. What does the concept of family mean to you today compared to what it meant when you were younger?
That's a hard question, truly, because as I said, as we begin the podcast, I came from a broken family, and it hits differently. But family used to feel like something you're born into, whether or not it feels safe, if that makes sense. Now, I see it more as something you build intentionally. My chosen family means people who show consistency in care, in respect, and
Mhm.
it's less about biology and more rather about emotional safety and mutual presence and an understanding towards each other,
You know what? Since you mentioned consistency, that's one thing that I've been like trying to find on people that I meet.
which is rare and which is
Yeah,
hard.
it's very rare because your expectation of consistency is what you expect yourself. I mean,
To be
to
treated.
give, to be treated as well. But for
Yes.
me, in my case, is what I give is consistency. And if I see inconsistency from the other side, it really disappoints me. Maybe it's just my expectation um of people that
Yes, that we're not met, at least.
yeah, yeah.
And it disappoints. Yeah, I completely understand that feeling. I mean, we always choose the right people and the right set of people within our circle
Mm,
because of the things that had happened in our past, and that's
yeah.
completely, understandable.
Right, right, right. So if you could look back at the version of yourself who was right in the thick of the family breakdown and unsure of the future, what psychological quip or piece of advice would you whisper to him?
I would tell myself that his experience, what I am experiencing or he is experiencing pretty much isn't forever.
Mm,
Even it feels like it is because right now I'm still figuring things out really. That surviving doesn't have to mean doing everything alone.
mm,
And most importantly, that our identity and emotions are not problems to be fixed. Rather, they are parts of um, ourselves that deserves understanding and not shame. So going back to the previous question, it would always boil down to having the right people within our lives at the right time that would help us in our that will help us grow rather than judge us and condemn us of who we are.
nice, nice. I really, really appreciate your time today. Izzy, it's so fascinating listening to your story because in developmental psychology we see that when a family structure breaks down, kids often develop this, intense self-reliance. But it becomes a double-edged sword. It keeps you safe when you're young, but it can make vulnerability really tough as an adult. How have you balanced keeping that fierce independent drive while also learning to let people in? Um, do you have like a tip for any other members of the community?
Yeah. I think for the younger generations and to the younger one, I think right now I can see that they are now able to express themselves freely. Just keep it that way. I mean, there's nothing wrong with who you are for as long as you're doing the right thing,
Mm,
then just continue. And also know that don't be ashamed or afraid of who you are because you know you're no one can judge you of why you choose to be who you are now. It's your life. Live your life accordingly, for as long as you're not hurting others and you're living life in the doctrine of a certain moral standards that you've
mm.
believed in, then you're well and good. And that pain is something that you meet every day. You just accept it, learn from it, and grow from it.
Really,
Iba talaga
really,
yung mga batang 90s.
yeah,
We're built differently because
yeah,
life back then was not easy.
exactly. But we are single, so that's the difference.
Yes.
Mas matatapang yung mga new
Ay,
generation.
yeah. Mas iba lang talaga yung panahon natin. We're built
Yeah,
for the generation that is in between the old school ways and embracing the new ones. But to the new ones, to the younger ones, keep going. You're now the pillars of the
mm.
future. So
Laban lang ba din?
yes,
Okay. Again, salamat sa join. Thank you for
yes.
joining
Thank you.
our
Thank you for
podcast
having
again.
me.
The name of our podcast is Born This Weird.
Yes, guys.
I hope to
Subscribe.
subscribe, yes, follow, and yeah, send money. Shut up.
Yes.
Anyway, thank you everyone for tuning in, and I hope easy we can, talk about other topics again in the future. All
Sure,
right.
I'll be glad to be one of your guests again. Thank you guys, and do not forget to subscribe to Jasper's podcast, Born to Be Weird, as he tackles everything about life and social.
So
Thank you.
born to be weird, born this weird.
Born this weird pala guys. Sorry na. Mag-subscribe kayo. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.